Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your very first time here to the channel, that includes those of you on BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, and of course here on YouTube, I want to welcome all of you guys here to the channel, and I appreciate all of your guys' continued support.
We start things off from the Daily Mail. Biden's disinformation board is paused after just 3 weeks, and its head, Nina Jankowicz, resigns after sparking outrage for pushing debunked Russian collusion claims and calling Hunter Biden's laptop a Trump campaign tool. And yet, these were two key issues that were perpetrated. For 2.5 years, the Russian collusion was perpetrated by the media to suggest that President Trump was compromised and that the election of 2016 was also compromised, when in reality it was nothing more than the Democrats and the progressives and the left and perhaps the establishment that were angry that Trump had won, and they were trying to find excuses and reasons for blame because they did not win. And then, of course, the deliberate and intentional censorship and holding back of Hunter Biden's laptop across social media specifically, or just in media and social media, not allowing anyone to even talk about it. As a matter of fact, if I even brought it up on YouTube, I would have gotten a strike and maybe even a suspension on YouTube had I mentioned it, because it was also considered Russian disinformation. So you see a pattern here. Russia is the boogeyman. Russia is the scapegoat for the Democrats' problems and issues, and they can't even escape what's happening right now. It is so overwhelming, because when it comes to gas prices, grocery prices, retail prices, anything and everything that goes up that affects people, it is at their doorstep. You see, it took this to happen at people's doorstep for them to realize just how much President Trump was actually benefiting the country versus what happens when the establishment is benefited. Now, if we go through some of this, we can see some of the very interesting and key points that were made here in 2016, where she shared a link to a now deleted Medium post featuring a mural of Donald Trump kissing Russian President Vladimir Putin. Of course, this was to defame and to embarrass and to humiliate and undermine, because the Democrats, this is their dirty little game they like to play. That was in 2016. All these are in 2016. Interesting. Jankowicz links to a Forer piece titled Putin's Puppet and tweeted, but do we want a president that has so many shady and cozy ties with Russia? So again, she just continues on with this kind of narrative of Russia, Russia, Russia the whole entire time. And then, of course, if we go down even further, we could even see where she quotes from Hillary Clinton herself. So Hillary Clinton has tried to stay out of the spotlight, but it's been very difficult and very challenging. Of course, as of this moment, Trump is suing her in her campaign essentially for some of the activity they did. But it's undisputable. We can see this right here, that there was an active campaign against President Trump, which is no mystery. We have been talking about this for 4 years. But when we talked about it, when we would talk about it, we would get censored. We would get demonetized. We could get strikes. We could get banned. And it seems kind of repetitive, does it not? That today we're still having to repeat the fact that we are being censored in some sort of way. But I am so glad that this has failed, because, again, we go back and we look at NPR. A key source for the infamous Trump Russian dossier is charged with lying to the FBI. Right there. All of this just, 2 years ago, if we had mentioned this, 3 years ago, if we had mentioned that this was all a fabrication, that the dossier, that the Russian collusion was all a fabrication, we would be labeled conspiracy theorists. And even Rolling Stone, the left-leaning, progressive Rolling Stone, corroboration zero. An Inspector General's report reveals that Steele dossier was always a joke. Think about that. These individuals who presume that everyone is dumber than they are, and assume that we don't see how dumb they are, actually perpetrated a fake story for 2 years because they didn't like President Trump. They didn't like that someone was actually benefiting the country, doing things that were benefiting the people of this country, versus cooperating and being part of the narrative of the establishment. And this is what we got. And it's just extraordinary. Biden admin pauses controversial disinformation governance board. It should never have started to begin with, because in very simple terms, as we do here on the BuzWeaver channel, We take the difficult, we take the complicated, and we make it very simple. We get straight to the point, and that is this. The government wanted to use platforms as proxies to censor information because the government doesn't want to look bad. It doesn't want to look inept. It doesn't want to look like it doesn't have the answers to the problems that people have. And, of course, we see very little solutions that have been created by the Democrats other than blame and finger-pointing instead of actually trying to find solutions. They look for blame and they basically just obfuscate instead of actually focusing on what can create solutions. So when individuals like myself, commentators, or others, or even conservatives, moderates, whomever, come out and just simply question what's happening. In basic human communication, just simply questioning, why is this happening, or why is that happening? Why has this not been tried, or that been tried, or why is there not a particular movement in this direction or that direction? And we're considered a threat to democracy. So when you question the Democrats, when you question the progressives, you are basically a threat to democracy. Basically, you're a threat to them because you could be saying things that their fold, that their ilk can hear. And maybe it changes their minds. And then those individuals are going to be asking them questions, the very questions that I ask, that many ask, as to why this is happening. And then we, of course, provide reasons and outlines and solutions to how these can be corrected. So even here from the New York Post, who was also censored themselves because they were going to produce and release, they were going to release the information about Hunter Biden's laptop, but they were shut down by, ironically enough, the New York Times and other outlets because, of course, the New York Post was kind of going off on their own, going in their own direction, and not being part of the narrative. And it's just kind of interesting that they considered her to be a Mary Poppins on ice, Scraps Orwellian DHS board, because it essentially, people came out and spoke. And this is the way information is supposed to work. People come out and say, look, this is the situation. We can understand that the government is trying to use these platforms as proxies to be able to censor their political enemies, basically, their political rivals, that these people might be coming up with better ideas, better solutions, so they must be censored, or that they're engaged in some sort of disinformation or misinformation to redirect and or capture people. In other words, that's the Democrats' way of saying that there are individuals that are more influential than them. Because there are two things that we talk about here on the channel that are the priority of Democrats and the progressives. One, popularity. Second, influence. Those are their two main virtues that they focus on the most. They don't like that people have better solutions, better ideas, better concepts, or that they're even questioned for why they're doing what they're doing. But here we have it. It just fell apart because people could see it. I mean, it's so absurd that they were going to actually create this disinformation board from the Department of Homeland Security to essentially censor people through platforms, or putting pressure on platforms to censor this, censor that, point fingers to this, point fingers to that. And so obviously it's an issue. It's a concern. And it has been for quite some time for me as a content creator. This is why I'm glad that you guys are supporting the channel. And if you guys weren't aware, I'm just going to go to a random video here on my channel. If you guys want to help support this channel because of the fact that we're often demonetized, I have a super thanks button now where you guys can click on and donate to the channel. And I appreciate any and all your guys' help. As a matter of fact, just as simple as simply sharing and liking the video is helpful, and commenting. So I do appreciate all of that you guys are doing to help me out. And of course, this is a continuing story that I'll keep an eye on. I'm sure as things unfold with Elon Musk, we'll see even more. But that's what I have for you guys this Friday.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments. I appreciate all the new followers on New Tech. That would be BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey. You guys have been amazing there. And, of course, below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to. I'm very glad that things are working out the way they are for Twitter. We'll have to continue to keep an eye on that. But nonetheless, guys, all of you here on YouTube, of course, my loyal viewers here and subscribers on YouTube, thank you so much for your guys' continued support, as well as those who have donated to the super thanks that's to the right and below the video. You guys can utilize that to make simple, easy donations to the channel. So I appreciate all those who have helped out. And, of course, guys, there appearing on the screen, that would be the channel icon for YouTube that you can click on to subscribe, as well as to indicate if you want notifications when there is content here on the channel, to include video shorts. And I'll see all you guys right there behind that camera next week.